now I'm kind of easing her out of the situation. The image directly behind me of the old house with the leaves, those are my family members in the bottom half, and those are other photographs that are wedged between two pieces of transparent paper. The old house is a family house that belongs to my relatives. It has been closed up since like 1952. It has all the furniture and stuff still in there. So I'm like, my cousin says, well, you need a hazmat suit to go in there. And I'm like, I'm game. If I get a respirator and a hazmat suit, it's like, I really want to see what's in there. And it's another one that this like friend of ours is wanting to go into also. But I keep telling my cousin, I was like, do we really want her going into our family houses? Do we really want to dig up that stuff? Let's put her in a stranger's house. You know, where we aren't associated with whatever she's going to discover or think she's going to discover. So, but that's based on that house. My family up there is getting kind of used to what I do. They don't really understand, and you know, I needed to come down to Florida for this art show, and you know, I was going to do this talk and everything. So they don't really know how to approach it or how to react to it. I know Matt sent my cousin a picture last night, and he's standing there, and he goes, "I recognize those things. You know, she's using our community for her artwork." That's what I do, people. So see, he's already like in line asking for a percentage of anything that develops from my artwork and uses family property. So he's not dumb. Most of it, like all the hand sewn stuff are original one-of-ones. The fans are from an edition of tint because those are inkjet printed onto the fans' properties. So I don't know, did I cover everything really, really fast and we're done? Does anyone have like a burning question about anything?
Is the top of the paper here, is that how it's fed into the printer, where it has like the old, I don't know what you call it, punch holes in the top?
The punch hole?
Yeah.
I wanted these pieces to look like they came out of a sketchbook. The paper does not have those punch holes. It's regular, just sheet paper. It looks like a regular sheet of paper. So I ordered a special kind of punch so that I could replicate stuff. And it was like, and then it's sewn onto the top of that to make it look like it's a sketchbook. Yeah, I'm not sure I would continue doing that because punching all those little bitty holes was kind of a crazy adventure. So, and then I was like super and I'm like, okay, it wouldn't look the same if I tore it out of a sketchbook anyway. So just let it go where it falls. So, but yeah, I did it with a hand hold, which is really good if you've got room to practice in your hand.
And they're also all stitched onto the
Yeah, they're all stitched.
That's an individual half-inch sheet, thin ribbon of paper.
I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago because I told her I was having some extra pain and stuff in my hand. Now we kind of know why.
Another question about this, what are the numbers on the top? Does it mean something to you?
Those numbers, this background here that you see, this border, was the back of a cabinet card. So they were already on there, so I just left them on there. Yeah. The plate and stuff I had, and you know, some of this other stuff. When I go out shooting and stuff, you know, some people will be shooting scenes. I shoot pieces of scenes that I know I'm going to put together as another story. That I could, so I have what I call my morgue of images, and I have stuff divided like dead animals, insects, numbers, signs. You know. So I have a complete morgue of images, and so when I get ready and I think I want to tell a story or I want to make something, I pull from that. So that he came from the dead bird morgue, and I have a whole set of leaves. I probably have 1,000 different kinds of leaves. That whenever I'm walking, I'm just shooting leaves on the ground, shooting whatever, rocks, stuff. Yeah. I never thought I would do computer stuff, and I always hated doing computer stuff. And this person over here can tell you that I really didn't like doing computer stuff because she's one of my students from high school. And I ended up being the computer instructor at Harrison, which is the art school in Lakeland. And so then I just thought, this isn't that bad. And I started getting into it personally. And now it's like, I have different students that say, see, look what you're doing now. It's all you do is computer stuff. You know, and I was like, it's such a paranoid mess trying to teach them how to do Photoshop.
Yeah, I thought it was Photoshop.
We all did Photoshop at that time.
So are these images printed first and then colored, or?
Yes.
It's lovely.
And it's washed. They're hand-painted with wash.
Okay.
So,
I am particularly smitten
You know, when I use threads, I look at threads as a separate line, another line that's either breaking the compositions or whether, and I think I'm having them fall in different places I want, but the static electricity, when I go to frame it, it makes them do what they want to do. So, and I've just always been intrigued by this sketchbook look, and I researched probably for a good 6 months trying to find paper that I could use to do this that would have it already on there, and it was because I knew I wanted to keep using my Kozo paper because I like that transparent look of painting on it, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to make these bands to go across the top and figure a way to attach them. So,
Is that paper in Larson with the circles?
no, that's French knots.
Okay.
Yeah, I hand stitched French knots. I was real fortunate growing up that my mom and my grandmother taught me embroidery, cross stitch, and crocheting and knitting. And someone last night was like, "Well, were you taught the proper way to do things?" I think I was, because she thought my embroidery was really spot on. And then with the using crocheting and knitting, I crochet and knit left-handed because my grandmother was left-handed, and she's the one that taught me those two aspects. Everything else I'm right-handed on, but I crochet and knit left-handed. So,
Did I miss the story of this girl with the bunny in the?
I didn't really give a story to that one.
I like it. I was just curious. I'm like, I love that one.
I so very rarely use figures in my work or use faces and stuff. And I actually did a piece of that one from the front. And I'm like, oh, I just don't like this nose and I don't like his eyes. And it's like, to me, it was saying too much about the person. And I said, no, I think it'd be better from the back. And this particular cabinet card I had the front and the back of the person's head, so I had a choice there. So like, I threw the front one away and threw the back. Yeah, pretty much. I guess you could do that. Yeah. Gouache, it's a type of watercolor. Yeah, it's an opaque watercolor. And yeah, no, this is all watercolor based kind of. Yeah. No, the fans are printed on roll-off paper, which is a regular inkjet paper that you can buy. And church fans are still in business. Churches still buy church fans. So there's all sorts of places where you can get these little handles and you can get the patterns and so forth to make church fans.
So are you doing it with Photoshop?
Almost all of them are manipulated in some way with Photoshop, yeah.
And all the stands, the handles are weathered and stained.
I stained all
They
the
come
stands.
pretty bleached,
Yeah.
bleached white almost, and she stained them all.
And I stained them with coffee and tea. I'm trying to see if there's anything that, this angel here on the ground, that was shot at the cemetery in Savannah. It may have been shot at the Paintwood Cemetery. But that's a straight photograph. But I did, Photoshop to blur the edges and stuff. The church is a straight photograph. So, yeah. It amazes me when I shoot and I don't do anything to it. I had this urge to mark on stuff. Even when I first started out, I would do these really large photographs and I'm like, oh, look at it. Scratched in here, did something over here. I don't know, I guess I was fighting the issue of being a photographer because my degree is in painting. I'm like, no,
Did you go to Korea?
well,
College?
no, I didn't. Roberta Schofield did. I didn't. I went to USF. Yeah. I wanted to go to Berea College. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Berea College. It's written up a lot in the Business Weekly and those because students don't pay tuition to go to Berea. Their tuition is paid for. And in turn, they have to work 10 hours a week in one of the industries on college. But the industries on college are like the pottery studio, the room making place, the hotel, so it's a wonderful program. It's written up a lot. They've got enough stuff in their endowment to pay for the next 100 years of students. They only take 2,000 students a year, and you have to have need to go there. And at the time, my dad was in the military, and they said my dad made too much money, couldn't go. And then of course, my parents knew somebody on the board, and they said, well, we can get her in if she really wants to go. And my dad's like, no, we don't do that. This is set up for, the children of Appalachia, that's what we're gonna stick with, and she can go someplace else, so I think, so. But I live near Berea College now, so. It's a great program.
I remember your automobile airstream
The
gallery. Can you tell us about that whole experience?
We decided that we wanted to teach mobily, and we thought we can teach out of an Airstream. And we bought an Airstream, and we also thought, oh, if we teach out of it, and then we have open studios in it where we show artwork in it, we can write it off as a business expense. So that was part of it. So we did that for several years. I mean, we did a pop-up at
About
the
12.
Yeah, we did it at the MFA, and then we went to parks and we taught iPhone photography out of it, and pinhole photography out of it. It was a lot of fun because it had a refrigerator and everything. So we'd take about, I think, 6 to 8 students in that what we used to take, and they could put their lunches in the refrigerator, you know, and then we would take a break at lunch, and we would show their work on the TV in the Airstream. They'd go back out and shoot, and we'd have critiques and stuff. We sold the Airstream before we went to Kentucky, so we didn't have it anymore. But it was a good experience. But we also realized as we're old and in retirement now, the expense of the Airstream is pretty up there, you know. So close to the area where we live, they wanted us to make sure we could put it in the barn. Like we don't have a barn, so yeah, side by side, but we don't have a barn. But that was the whole thing with box photos. It was named box photos based on my pinhole stuff. And it was also, I worked in museums for the last 20 years, so we would store artwork, if you're not familiar, in museums into cylinder boxes and archival boxes. So that was where I had that box photo idea. I think it was my idea.
We actually one time counted the number of artworks we could have if we showed up and did an art walk or something, and we could easily have 150 pieces, 11 by 14 and smaller, in the boxes stacked in the closet. So it'd be like a museum archive closet of the Airstream. We had the boxes.
Black boxes.
We measured the Airstream closet and then stacked the boxes accordingly. So I was doing small works on Polaroid and salt printing, and Rebecca was doing dry plate tintype and, you know, pinhole also, and she was doing these pinhole collector boxes where she'd shoot a series of works out of a Starbucks coffee cup, give the person in that box not only the camera but 6 pieces of works from there. It's like a little collector series. So we attempted to start that a little bit. We still have a few of them, and I still think it's a great idea for young collectors to really get something special of a one-of-one, but maybe it's before its time. But it just got really expensive to maintain the Airstream.
Yeah,
Before we sold it, I put $10,000 in it to get it ready for sale, but we paid $52,000 for it, had it for 12 years, and sold it for $47,000.
So it held its value.
So it held its value, and it went to the collector who purchased Ferris Bueller's Days Off Ferrari. He's the one that bought it, and he's in the process of, not, if it's not already done, restoring it, and he will probably auction it off for a lot more, because it was a Flying Cloud Ocean Breeze edition, a collector's edition. It was
The same one Matthew McConaughey has.
Yeah, it was the cream of the crop, and we had all the original parts, and I think he was going to do something with it. I don't even want to know because it's probably worth $200,000.
Yeah, we were kind of surprised. He flew in from Austin, Texas, and stayed in our backyard.
No, he drove in.
He drove
it
it
back.
with his truck, that's right, and stayed in our backyard, and then bought it the next morning.
He stayed in the Airstream?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, he wanted to test everything out, so
that makes sense.
he stayed in our backyard. Yeah.
And I knew something was up with when he asked me if I had the provenance of the ownership of it. And I went, not everybody uses that word. we
Especially
were,
in an Airstream.
especially when it comes to trailers. And Becky and I looked at each other like, yeah, this guy's. He never did tell us he bought Ferris Bueller, that he was the guy. And I had his name, and I researched, and he said he did cars, and I just plugged his name in. And there he is in Monterey selling the Ferrari for like $800,000.
Well, and the thing that was a red flag to us was he wanted to pay cash for the Airstream, and I'm like, are we sure this guy's on the up and up, or like being scammed? I mean, should we like meet him in the parking lot of the sheriff's office or something? And he went
We were a nervous wreck.
We were a nervous wreck. He took us to his bank, and his bank, you know, they
Wells
wouldn't,
Fargo.
yeah, they wouldn't say a whole lot. They just said, "You're good. Just take the money." And we're like, okay, you know, it was like our bank, of course, was like, "Where'd you come in? You know, this much cash money?" But yeah, it was an interesting transaction for sure, bringing it in this rack, but I worry about everything, so.
So if anybody wants to start a photo business out of a trailer, call us.
We're more than happy to give you a little bit of advice on that and the licenses and
But
stuff.
after we did it, local glass blower kind of took the idea.
We took the trailer to the MFA for a pinhole class once, and that was when Kent Lidecker was the director. And people were coming in and out of the Airstream to tour it to kind of see it, and we were teaching the class upstairs in one of the classrooms. And I came down, and there's Kent asleep on my couch in my Airstream because he loved the Airstream, really wanted one. We were going to park out front of the MFA, and he's like, "Oh no, you can jump the curb and come on up to the, into the steps." And I'm like, "We never done that with our Airstream, jump the curb of the building, to get close to it." And then later on, he's like, "Why don't you go to Boston? I can get you at the Boston Museum up there if you want to go." He goes, "But there's a circle you're going to have to maneuver to get in there." And I told him that this is like way out of hand here. I mean, but he was very helpful in wanting to get us locations and get us out and about. So he liked the Airstream a lot. So, got anything else? I mean, I could walk around, but there's.
I have a question just about, related to your process with the works on the Kozo paper. Are you, because I know you're very precise about everything, do you, like when you're starting a work of art, do you do a sketch of how it's going to be and then you follow that totally, or are you changing it as you
I'm
go?
always changing it, as I go. But I do keep sketches in a sketchbook, and that goes back to when I was teaching,
Yeah.
because we used to make the kids do sketchbooks, and I always felt I don't want to ask them to do something that I wouldn't be doing myself. And so I did keep a sketchbook the whole time you don't keep a sketchbook.
Good, thank you.
But it changes, yeah.
So it's a little spontaneity
Yeah.
in there.
We have two separate printers too. I have an Epson and I have a Canon. And sometimes the Kozo works on one and sometimes it doesn't, so I'm always like having to adjust that. And it's, I get nervous before I have to print some of this stuff. It's like, if I get one print out really well, then I feel like I need to do the other 10 just to have them done in case the printer decides it doesn't want to be as happy the next day, I'm still kind of, skittish with digital stuff as opposed to just doing regular photos. So. We had a dark room in our studio with a 4x5 enlarger, which if you'd like to see that 4x5 enlarger,
It's upstairs.
upstairs.
Thank you again.
And now I donated it to here before we left because I didn't think I would be using it that much in Kentucky. It's just the chemicals and stuff. I don't know, as I'm getting older, I'm getting more jittery about some of that stuff. That's why I use a lot of watercolor as opposed to, I used to hand paint with Marshall oils, and the solutions and stuff from Marshall oils just got to be too much to take for a long time. So
It's good to know that gouache works very effectively in this baby.
it's tricky. Once you put it down, it's down. It's tricky, but it's doable. I mean, I kind of like what it does, and I kind of had to free my mind that okay, if it's going to bleed this way, it's going to bleed this way, and because it doesn't come back up when you put it down. It's like painting on tissue paper, if you're wondering what Kozo paper's like. But it is digital Kozo paper, so it's coded to go through a printer, and I think that helps the situation. You get it B&H photo. And it comes in 8x10 or 13x19, and you can get it in mold.
Oh, then it's easy to paint on?
It's not easy to paint on. It's watercolor, so you've got to be careful too about how much water you put into the medium, because it was,
And how much density the print is coming off the printer too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of experimentation depending on what your vision of the piece is going to be. If you want a real light image that you're going to paint it and then you don't see the image at all, or you can have the image be stronger through the wash.
I'll give credit to my painting instructor, who's the first one. My watercolor guys. Jeffrey Cronsdale said I'd never amount to anything because I was a female, I had drops on my brain. So I stopped taking his classes and went through this. And Jeff knows, I've told him he said that because he said that.
Yeah, that story's out.
That story's been out, going around for a long time. So, but then I ended up showing with Jeff, so. trying to show him. But, yeah, no, I'm real happy being back with the watercolor, and there's just so much out now, cause like, I got Matt for Christmas these watercolor pens, you put the water in the pen, you know, and so you can go hiking and the water's already in the pen and you just put it in the paint and it's, there's just so much different things that, you know, so I'm kind of looking forward to trying some of that too. So, I think the next thing I'm working on is using, antique vintage handkerchiefs, but I want to make them out of paper, I don't want to make them cloth. So I'm trying to take the design on these antique, handkerchiefs and embroider them onto magazine and just put it in my handkerchiefs.
I've been seeing the purchases come by.
I've been buying handkerchiefs like crazy out of the antique stores up there. So I think I'm gonna do something like that, and then also have a photo incorporated on that. So still chugging that over in my head a little bit. I think about things for a very long time. So I actually decide.
When she's not sleeping.
Yeah, well, I'm not sleeping, seeing dead people. Anything else? Yeah.
Have you ever thought about going larger with your pieces?
Actually, that was something I was gonna ask. I don't mean to interrupt you, because historically, I've known you for your
For big,
large work,
yeah.
and this is much smaller than you usually work, so that's kind of ties
But you know, those big ones cost a whole lot of money to frame.
And shit.
And shit, you know, because I did have a couple of bigger ones and I was debating, I'm like, okay, do I want to box up two of these big ones to send to Amanda? And I probably should have, but I didn't. So, yeah, you know, that's the other thing too, though, is painting with the watercolor on this paper, I don't know how well I could cover a bigger area, you know, and get it to look consistent. Because I think it would just kind of really, I don't know, it might be interesting to do. But then if I took a bigger, I thought about taking a bigger sheet of paper and then sewing the things onto the bigger piece of paper. There's possibilities. But to buy the Kozo paper in a roll is $239 for a roll of Kozo, and I'm like, you gotta be spot on before I do that, you know? So, I can throw a piece of 13 by 19 away and it would feel halfway bad. But if I messed up something that was 40 by 40, I would like, probably physically.
Is the roll of Kozo paper, how long is it?
It's like, I think it's 3 feet by, I don't know how long. I think I could get maybe 2 or 3 pieces of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's an
Our friend
investment.
for 28, I think, or something.
yeah, yeah, it's a commitment I don't know that I'm ready to do.
But we're looking at, I mean, you gotta think venue too, you know, if you're at a museum and they got stanchions away from the wall, she could do that larger piece, and we've talked about it, but they would be probably most likely put up with magnets. So we are looking at alternative ways, unframed, that on a retirement income that we can handle without the piece being sold before she did it. That's the thing, is all of these are also framed by her.
Right.
From the shadow box frame to everything, so especially coming off hand surgery like she has, it's an ordeal. So I'm learning a little bit about mat cutting, but it's hard to frame at her level and Mark Feingold's level, you know, they're like so picky.
I worked with Mark Feingold for a very long time, so a lot of my framing and floating frames and stuff is thanks to Mark Feingold and working on graphic studio pieces, so.
It's cool, you can do it all.
Huh?
It's amazing you can do it all.
You have to, and you're learning that.
Yes, I am.
I also boxed all the stuff that came here
I
too.
know, yeah.
It's interesting now because where I'm at, we don't have a shipper or any place to, you know, and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get this stuff to Amanda? And then they have this place called Ship Kentucky, and I'm like, well, that sounds promising, and so I actually paid them a visit in advance, and they do FedEx and UPS, and they do all of it, you know, and I said, look, I'm shipping expensive artwork to Florida, and you know, they didn't seem to be fazed by it, because sometimes up there, you know, people can go a little witty, and so the chief goes, no, you gotta use UPS, because UPS hires their employees, and their employees like, that's why you have to stay in UPS driver all the time.
Right.
But FedEx, you never know who you're gonna get. And she goes, FedEx contracts their people, and so, you know, they don't take as much attention as UPS does. And then she said, put additional insurance on it. She goes, you don't have to put a lot of additional, but make sure you put additional insurance, because whenever you do that, whenever the box exchanges hands with someone else, they have to sign for it. And so you have a good tracking record if something happens midway of who signed for it the last time. So I mailed the stuff out on a Monday and it was here by Wednesday, I think. Yeah. So I was like really surprised. I was like, okay, this is gonna be doable. I have a place I can ship stuff. Because we aren't really near anything. We don't have a grocery store. And the bulk of my clothes are now coming from Tractor Supply. That tells you a lot. Or Amazon. So, but
We're wearing a car.
he's wearing a car, I'm sure. Yeah, so we aren't really close to a whole lot of stuff. We're close to Berea, which is a good-sized town. We're close to Richmond and Danville, which are good-sized towns, but we don't have Publix. We have to go to Lexington if we want that, but we have Myers, which is a whole different experience. Yeah. So it's been a real cultural shift, you know, and which is kind of surprising me because I grew up there. My family's from there. I've always been going there. But it's been like a real change in kind of attitudes and mindsets. And, you know, if you pull off the side of the road to maybe, like, you can't use your phone in Kentucky. It has to be hands-free. You can't, they'll stop you. But if you pull off to make a phone call or something, 3 people will stop to ask if you need help. You know, it's just a whole different kind of way of life up there. We carry ham radios with us in case we don't have cell service wherever we go, because we don't always have cell service. You go outside of our house at night, it's black. You can't see your hand. I mean, it's dark. We don't have any street lights or anything like that, so.
Yeah, there are no lights in our neighborhood. If everybody turned off the lights, you wouldn't see a house.
Yeah.
Unless it was a full moon
Yeah.
with snow in there.
Yeah. But it's been good. So far we like it. We've lasted a year. We haven't gotten in any trouble.
Well, we're asked every week, are you moving back? Are you
Yeah. Yeah, I have family members that call every week. Are you still here? Yes, I'm still here. I'm staying, okay?
Sounds like a lot of work for retirement.
Well, you know, we had a very small house here. I don't know if you ever were on our house.
I was going to ask you, tell the difference between having a studio and 2 small 8x8 rooms,
Yeah.
and now you have 1,500 square foot basement.
Yeah, I have a 1,500 square foot studio now. Yeah, the small house here, I was used to working in the bedroom, you know, and if you wanted to frame something, you had to move the dining room table, and move the couch, and move this and that. But I got used to it, and that's what, you know, I was used to having stuff come in on me or whatever. Now, there's so much space in the studio downstairs, because we have a full basement that we've redone to a studio, that, you know, I feel like I'm just like this little bitty speck in this huge room, and I'm like, oh, I'll walk over there to the flat file, or I'll walk here to the, you know, it's an odd situation. It took a little while to get used to. But yeah, we went from a very small house up here in West Tampa to acre and a half in Kentucky. And we had our house built up in
We went from 1,100 square foot to almost 3,000.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get into detail.
We upscaled.
Which I know when they say you're about to retire, you know, you're supposed to go the other way. And we were like looking, and I'm like, well, you know, it's really nice having this wide open kitchen. So it's, you know, who knows? In a couple of years, we may be downsizing. But we left everything here for the people that bought our house. Like we left the lawnmower, we left all the garden equipment and all this. And then we get up there and we have this acre and a half, and Matt realizes, oh God, I need a lawnmower, you know. But he had to get a riding lawnmower for up there, so. And then we had to get snow shovels. That's been different too. So.
Are you near Barbara Kingsolver?
Do I what?
Are you near Barbara Kingsolver?
I don't think so. Yeah. I remember where she is, and I can't.
So
like,
she left, is it?
Yeah, which is still 40 minutes away from us. Yeah.
Not too far.
Yeah.
I'm in the mountains too.
Oh, okay.
Third generation St. Pete escaped
Okay.
from the tourists.
So where are you at now?
I'm outside Asheville,
Oh, okay.
but I was in a very remote area for 7 years.
Well, you know what?
It's hard.
What's been strange is like my dad was military, so we moved every 2 years. And he put in an extension for us to stay in Virginia because I had an opportunity to take my art classes at the Smithsonian. I was at the Arts High School. And so I was in Virginia for 6 years because my high school was 7th through 12th grade. And so I was just in love with Virginia, you know, and that's what I was used to. And then when my parents said we were coming to Florida, I was like traumatized. I mean, I think I cried all the way from Virginia across the border into Florida. And I've never been really drawn to Florida since I've been here. You know, I had a boyfriend at the college. That's the reason I went to USF. And I met Matt.
Wait, what?
It's like, what?
And Matt had never really been out of Florida. He didn't know any different. He thinks Florida's great, you know. And I'm like, you know, there's a whole world outside of Florida, and people act a little different outside of Florida. You're going to be surprised. So, I mean, it's been more of a culture shock for him being up there now than, you know, for me. But I'm very happy to be back in the mountains. You know, I guess I had a different personality than I thought I did. So, and it doesn't bother me not being around big cities or anything. We've done pretty well with that. So.
Mountain archery,
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
it's grounding.
It's such, I mean, I'm off blood pressure medicine, I'm off everything now at this point, because it's just so much calmer, you know. You know that if something happens to somebody, there's gonna help you, regardless of whether they know you or not, you know. It's, at least I found that in the neighborhood where we are. The big thing up there around Maria and Paint Lake is we have blessing boxes, and all the farmers have these little stands out front where they put the sourdough bread and the eggs and everything, and you just put your money in a little box if you want that. The blessing boxes are free for people who need food or, you know, are having a hard time, and those are all around everywhere. And there's like 3 of them are refrigerated in Maria, so they have refrigerated. And you'll see, like, on the Facebook page, of course, people say, well, you know, I filled up the blessing box down behind the Dairy Queen, so if anyone's needing eggs or this or that, you know, it's there. It's just a whole different kind of thing, you know. It's people. Yeah, the other day somebody was having trouble getting breast milk, and I'm like, I swear to God, 150 women stepped up to the plate that were going out to help her, you know. So it's pretty wild. And then there's the whole Amish community, the Mennonite community, and I just finished reading a couple of books on that because I thought, since I'm living with them so close, I wanted to know more about their culture and what they were about and everything. So that's been pretty fascinating too. We're real close to the Amish grocery store. And my cousin took me up there a couple months ago. He introduced me to Joe, who owns the Amish grocery store. And Joe's like, you must be JR's niece. And I'm like, yeah, I'm JR's niece. And I'm like, how does he know my uncle? You know, my uncle wasn't Amish. You know, what's the story here? But Joe's son sits by the front door there, and he's a paraplegic. He's in a wheelchair. And evidently when the Amish have that break where they're trying to determine whether they want to stay within the religion or they want to go out into the real world, he was in an auto accident and was paralyzed. And the story was my aunt drove him to and from his doctor's appointments all the time because the Amish don't drive. And so that's how they got to know my family, was that they provided the transportation for him to get his therapy and everything. And it's just, you know, I'm like, I never knew this story. You know, it's stuff like that. It's just, I find it real touching to find out now that I'm old. When I was little, I just thought my uncle was a farmer, you know, but evidently he did a lot more than just farming. So it's been good. So, all right, any burning art questions? I know there's stories behind all of them, but I just don't even. Some of you don't want to know.
How do you shower exhibit up there?
You know, what's interesting is we took when Hurricane Milton came through, we decided we wanted to get the valuables and the artwork out of our house down here. So we rented a truck and we headed out to Kentucky because we had a storage unit up there that we didn't really stuff to. And we had, of course, that was the trip from home. We couldn't get gas, we couldn't find a hotel, we couldn't do anything. It took us forever to get to Kentucky. Midway through the trip, I get this phone call from this photographer, and she goes, hey, Ann Jestrup, the director of the museum in Carmel, said that you may be headed to Kentucky. She goes, I want you to know that we have a guest house on our property of our bed and breakfast. And she lives on a huge farm. And she goes, I want you to come here and stay in our guest house and start bringing your stuff here. I never met this woman. You know, she was just another photographer. I'd seen her work at different photography things. But she was like, she extended that invitation there. So I made friends with this photographer, which is in Springfield, which is probably 17 miles or maybe a little
That's
more.
about an hour and a half. It's
Yeah,
probably more
for
like
us.
60.
But then I told Matt, I said, I'm going to go onto Instagram and I'm going to follow all the professors from the University of Lexington and Kentucky and Louisville. And so I started following all the professors. And one of them remembered judging me in a show in California. And he's like, look, the photo biennial's coming up. Do you want to be in the photo biennial? He goes, because I know the guy that's directing the photo biennial. And so he put me in contact with the guy in Louisville. And he goes, yeah, well, you have 3 choices of where you want to show it. I wasn't familiar with any of the places. And I hadn't even unpacked my artwork by then. And so I passed on the biennial this year. But I've slowly gotten into where I've got these little opportunities to be able to show different places. So, and then it's also to teach if I wanted to, you know, do a lecture or something. So they've been really nice about that, so. And Kentucky still has all their grants and fellowship money. And, yeah, we have a great governor. Vote for Andy Bashir for president.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have Andy Bashir. Yeah, the fellowship's $7,500 in Kentucky. So, and then they have all these other like emerging grants and so forth. But I had to live in the state for a year before I could apply to anything. So I'm at that point now. So I just started applying. Our Arts Council in Berea is excellent. I mean, and they have all sorts of exhibition opportunities. Berea is known for arts and crafts, so they have room making and pottery and the quilts. They're really Appalachian crafts, and that's what they've been featured in Southern Living and all these magazines for. So finding what we would call like real art, you know, in our realm is kind of difficult. But there was this old Masonic temple in downtown Berea, this really old building, and Matt and I kept driving by, and it had two windows, and one window was like this gallery space, and it looked like this really interesting sculptures and stuff. And the other side, it was like this painting easel and all this kind of stuff. So we finally saw where they were open one day, we stopped, and it was a man and wife, that's a little bit older than Matt and I, but he was a professor at NYU, she came from Boston, and they live there now. And we were like, oh, this is real art. You know, they said, you don't know how many times we hear that. So we struck up a friendship with them too, and they were talking about different opportunities and letting us show in their space too, so. It's a slow process, but I think it'll happen. You know, I haven't really shown where I live for a long time. I've really been showing outside. Right now I have a piece of Carmel, I have some in just outside of San Miguel, and of course I do have some in Smyrna, but I can show. So.
Are you interested in Asheville?
I am.
Okay.
I had one experience in Nashville. It wasn't very positive.
Which gallery?
Blue.
Blue Spiral.
The Spiral? Oh, really? Okay, it's my connection.
Yeah, well, they didn't like my work, but this is 20 years ago,
Oh.
so it's not this work, so it's
Okay.
something different, yeah. But yeah, no, I'm friends with Dennett in that area,
Okay.
so yeah. No, I'm always open to ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bascom.
We were young and foolish then.
Yeah.
It was probably us.
It was probably us, yeah. I've done some really foolish things in my, you know, I once went to Julie Saul in New York, and I had my slides because she said she'd look at them, and I took them out, and she held them up, and she goes, yeah, here. And I go, well, you can keep them for, and she goes, no, you can mail them downstairs. I'm like, that was a slap in the face. So that didn't go well. I've since learned a whole lot about that, but it helped like changing gears, because I did work in museums for the last 20 years, and so I'm used to artists, you know, submitting packets and stuff to me, so I kind of got perspective on both sides now, you know, different things. So.
Yeah, that was before we really knew the proper protocol.
I guess rubbing it on Julie Saul was a big thing. So anyway, anything else? I know I went kind of quick. No?
We'll hang around.
Yeah, I'll be hanging around, so if you want to ask me something secretive, you can do that.
Yeah.
I do have some cards. I don't know if Matt has them on him. He's supposed to have them on him.
I'm going to get them now.
Oh, nice.
But the cards are for my Substack account. I am now on Substack. So if you go to my website, you'll see that I'm on Substack. And I've started posting stories on there, doing particular pieces, and showing how I assemble the pieces and how I derive the stories that I'm making. So join Substack. It's free. My site's
But
free.
it's not intuitive.
No, it is not. Oh my
Definitely not intuitive.
Let me tell you, it took me 2 months to figure out designing my Substack site. It's not intuitive at all, but I'm hoping it's gonna work.